Welcome to the Propane Fitness Podcast. We are here with Jujimufu, the anabolic acrobat from acrobolics.com and trickstutorials.com if you are old school and you've been following him for some time. So we're really excited to have Juji on the call. You most likely will have seen his antics on Instagram as well.
You're listening to the Propane Fitness Podcast, your ultimate resource for fat loss and muscle gain, with none of the gimmicks. With your hosts, Yusuf and Johnny. Simple rules, dramatic results.
Hello, Juji.
Hi, how's it going?
Can you just tell us a little bit about yourself for those who have managed to escape your social media presence?
Oh, sure. I'm a guy that started with martial arts in his early teens, 13 or 14, and then I transitioned into something called tricking, which is acrobatic martial arts, blend of flips, kicks, and twists. It's sort of an underground online movement. It's still relatively unknown today. And, I got into weightlifting in my late teens and bodybuilding in my mid-20s. I'm about 31 years old now, and the entire time I've kept up with all this stuff. But I think the thing that really exploded my popularity in recent years is extreme flexibility displays I posted on social media, weighted barbell side splits and other things like that. And some of my crazy antics has just kind of increased the awareness of people of my existence, I suppose. But I'm just a guy that kind of does a nice mix of things that a lot of people don't have.
And I've seen your development over the years. Back when you were doing an old website of tricks tutorials, that must have been in sort of 2004, 2003, and how you've you've got a lot bigger over that time and maintained your flexibility. How have you found balancing strength and size with maintaining flexibility?
Oh, that's easy. Balancing strength and size with maintaining flexibility, it actually helps. They actually help each other. The hard part is keeping the tricks when you increase your size, because strength is a necessary component of most displays of flexibility, especially the ones that I'm doing. And so, when you're training for size, you also a lot of times get a lot of strength and extra, muscle tone improvement. Just all these things help with the flexibility. The hard part is that I weigh about 80 pounds more than I did when I started tricking.
Right. Yeah,
to jump in the air with all of that mass is really, really hard. So the hard thing is doing the aerial tricks. The easy thing is doing the flexibility. That's easy.
So you used to be about 80 kilos, and are you 5'11"?
Oh man, no, not kilograms. Okay. Maybe you could do the conversion. I'm so sorry, guys.
Okay,
usually when I post videos, I always put both, but in my head I can't, and I don't have a calculator in my hand. So when I started, I was 150 pounds. Now I'm 235 pounds.
Right, so 68 kilos.
And now you're what? Sorry, 235.
35.
Right.
So 107.
So that.
Yeah. Okay. So if you're learning the moves at that weight, and then you blow up to that weight over the course of 13 or 14 years. Yeah, jumping around with that much more weight is a lot harder than jumping around at 68 kilos.
Do you find that is there like a tipping point at which that happens? Because I imagine obviously you're pretty lean in your videos and photos, so there's not a lot of mass that you're gaining that isn't serving a purpose. Is there a point at which it's easier, you gain a bit of muscle and you increase your jump height and things like that, or is it just harder the heavier you are?
No, there's a point definitely where you increase your mass a little bit and you do see an improvement. I've noticed the trend in a lot of tricksters who start off looking like skeletons, and then they actually do a little bit of weight training and strength training, and they might put on about 10 or 15 pounds, and everything looks better, everything's smoother and cleaner and snappier, and they're just more resilient, and they're so much better. But it's such a small tipping point. You can't go very high. It's a very small amount. So for me, when I started, I was like 150 pounds. I found my best weight was between 180 and 190 pounds.
Yeah,
and
I think
after that, it got worse and worse.
Right, so there's kind of a sweet spot around there, and I guess that's why it's so unusual and why you've got the following that you have. I don't know if you've seen, what's his name, Clarence Kennedy, who is another one of these guys who does Olympic lifting at quite a high level and still has managed to hold on to his tricks. And it's visually very unusual to see.
Yeah, no, I know Clarence. I've known him for a long time. We need to get together finally and meet. He lives in Ireland. I live in the U.S., so it's just one of those things. But yeah, Clarence is he's scary.
Yeah, agreed.
So just to give people an idea of like the standards when we're talking about balancing strength and flexibility, I guess flexibility we're talking
Chair splits.
full split, chair splits. Okay, right. With and then loaded as well. Like that's with load, the chair splits.
I mean, I do it with load.
Why not?
Okay,
I can.
If you're gonna do them, then
but
do
I
them
mean,
with
if you
load.
look at, I mean, generally, okay. I mean, in the flexibility world, basic benchmarks are things like splits. Front splits and side splits. It's sort of like in weightlifting, there's certain benchmarks for deadlifts. I think it's like, what's a good benchmark? I mean, every time you add on an extra 45 kilos or so, that's like the next level. Or is it 25 kilos?
So we like to use kind of increments of 0.5 body weight. So like I guess like a twice body weight deadlift would be kind of the first initiation into being a lifter, and then moving up in increments of 0.5.
So you've got comfortable splits, I imagine, and beyond that,
course.
what are your current lifts at that level of flexibility?
My deadlift's around 630 pounds. Crap, I need a calculator, guys. I'm
It's
sorry.
all right. We can do it.
we could,
630. So 285 kilos.
Yeah, so on my deadlift, I pulled that about a week ago or so.
Nice.
My back squat is around. I don't do too much back squat, but the most I've ever really tried. It's really bad for my patellar tendons. It's around 550. It's really low.
In fairness,
that's pretty good.
250 kilos, and I'm sure I've seen you do like a 180 back squat in a cross-legged position, like it's called like the guru squat or something.
Indian style squat.
Indian,
yeah.
that's it.
I don't know. My front squat is out of proportion with my back squat. I can front squat around 450.
Like
Right.
200 plus.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Okay, so yeah.
Yeah, but my back squat's a weakness of mine. It always has been, so it's okay.
You mentioned, like at the start of the podcast, you find it easy to maintain strength and flexibility. Like that's not the hard part. So what is your like training philosophy? Like how do you go about actually maintaining those things in a unit of time, like a week or a month? How do you approach it?
Well, the cool thing about flexibility is, especially when we're talking about benchmarks like splits and just mobility and general sense of shoulders and everything, just for a healthy human being. It's really cool because it's one of the biomotor characteristics that's the easiest to maintain, and once you build it, it lasts the longest. So I don't know if everyone has had experience where they take off some time from strength training for an extended period of time, and they come back and they're just as strong or really, really close to it. And they're like, holy crap, I'm still pretty good at this. Well, flexibility is even more like that. You could take off years and come back to it. They'd be like, oh, wow, I'm pretty close to the split still, apparently. Okay, cool, It's amazing. But the thing is, you have to build it to begin with. And if you don't actually build it correctly and actually prioritize it for a small period of time, you won't ever really get them. So that's the thing is, when I was younger, I made a goal, when I was 15 years old I want these, I was really fucking motivated, dude. I mean, I was stretching 2 hours every night, but when I got them, man, they're mine. They're good.
So that's something I love about your approach, and it's kind of you've got an article on sort of acrobolics periodization and taking a full season of just periodizing your life, I guess, and taking a dedicated focus on each goal so that you can pursue these kind of opposing goals at the same time and maintain what you've gained in one season while pulling it back and then pushing forward with the tricking while you let the lifting take a back seat, or flexibility and vice versa. Can you tell us a little bit about how you would structure a year?
Oh, yeah, sure. Well, my year is a little bit different the past couple of years because since things picked up for me on social media and all the opportunities, and people are always asking me to do performances and collaborate, all these different things, it can really throw your schedule off. And that's really exciting because it's like, no, why would I not want to work out with this very famous YouTube guy, So it's kind of hard to hey, I've scheduled this time off for no season. I can't go work out with CT Fletcher, you don't do things like that. You're just like, fuck yeah, man. I'm going to go destroy my arms for a week or something, But it's things like that has been difficult for me. But if you're not in that weird situation where your life is a little bit more predictable and there's not as before you get to that point, you're kind of building this machine that's gonna, you're building yourself up to the point where you can actually, that's the goal, is to be able to have the greatest life you can through what you're doing with it. I mean, in terms of building this thing, fitness through fitness. And anyway, I'm just rambling here, but look, in order to structure like a year for like a no season, I would look at what your restraints are. So let's say, for example, okay, bulking, if people want to like build some extra muscle mass, you got to look at where your biology is in different seasons. Typically people by default eat more in wintertime. They like to wear lots of heavy clothing. No one's like, showing their abs and tan and stuff in the wintertime. Typically it's like, no, let's just fucking get like really strong and lift heavy weights. Okay. In the summertime, it's the opposite. You lean up a little bit, you eat a little bit better, you're walking around with less clothes on, everyone's outside playing and having fun. Well, that's a good time to go outside and trick and do acrobatic movements and be light on your feet. So there you go. Right there, you got two criteria that you can build your year around. Okay, I'm going to get cut, lean up a little bit in the summertime and focus on explosive tricking, explosive activity, more plyometric type training. And in the wintertime, I'm going to eat more, focus on building my strength foundation and my lifts, and perhaps add in some bodybuilding accessory work if you're into building muscle. So you can look at other restraints. Everyone's different. Everyone has different schedules. Everyone, has different things going on in their lives. But you pull all that stuff together and you just sort of build the first model of what your year would look like.
Right. So you're basically riding the wave with the demands of the year and the weather and so on, and building your year around that and sort of planning it out quite specifically. Mm-hmm. So you mentioned the no season as well. Can you talk a bit about that as well?
Okay, absolutely. I love this.
Yeah.
Okay, so I did it was sort of a weird experiment I did a couple of years ago. And what it was, I've come to realize that people can say, hey, training is the most important thing, and you always got to put in all this time to train every day. But here's the thing. If your life is in chaos and shambles, and there's so many things distracting you every day, and you're just completely inefficient, and you got all these like weird problems and things you've just kind of put aside for so long, a lot of people they are these anxious balls of human energy that are just living this terrible disordered life, and they take it out by going and training and working out. And a lot of people work out their anger and their frustrations. Well, here's the thing. Why don't you just fucking fix your life so that it's more convenient to train, so it's easier? It's not like you're going to lose that motivation to train because you're not angry at how disorganized you are anymore. You're going to feel a little bit more ease, and it's just going to be more natural. So here's the thing. Everything in your life, if you improve your training support system, which is your life, get your finances in order, get your relationships in order, clean up your kitchen, clean up your house, take care of this, get back with these people, get an education, do all these things, get a new job, move to a different place, like fix your life. But the thing is, you can't focus on those things if you're spending so many hours a day destroying your body in these heavy lifts, that the point where you have brain fog, the rest of the time you're awake. You're just like, you're a walking zombie because you train so hard, because you're training so hard because you're trying to escape your life. So the whole purpose of the no season was to fix my life. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to stop training for a little bit, and I'm just going to fix my life, which is what I did. During that time, I got my new business started, Acrobolics, my new website started, Acrobolics. I got all that done. I started to get my social media working. I got all these things that sort of laid the foundation to where I'm at now. If I didn't take that first no season back at the end of beginning of 2014, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. I know I wouldn't have. The cool thing was, Youssef, that when I started training again, I was almost as strong as I was before I started. Before I stopped. I took 2 months off. All I did was like do some jump rope and walk around and go to the gym and putz around every now and again, and spent the rest of the time working on fixing my shit, getting my shit together. So I got back and I was almost just as strong. I was just like, holy crap. So I took 2 months off and everything's okay.
See, it's such a relief when that happens. And I actually, after reading your article, I took a no season myself. I was starting to get kind of niggly injuries and thought, you know what, I'm just going to focus on doing some yoga, doing some stretching, but just basically just doing the very minimum for training. And I think there's a lot that you've raised there, but there's certainly a big factor of if someone's training for escapism and their life is falling apart, then when you're constantly working, eating into your recovery capacity and you're walking around with brain fog, then maybe it is time to take some time off and actually get your support structure in place. So I think that's a really, really valuable lesson.
How long was the time you took off?
I mean, how long did I take off?
Yeah.
Almost 2 months.
Okay. So it's not, I think, when people hear, or a lot of people who strength train regularly hear the idea of taking complete time away from it, they're like, oh no, I don't want to do that.
I'll lose all my gains.
And 2 months is probably a lot longer than most people who strength train have ever taken off training. But I think the thing is, what I recommend is there's a difference between a healthy exercise and activity and training. So when I'm talking about taking time off for the no season, I'm saying like no training, but I'm saying you can work out, like you can go in and move weights around and have some fun. Just don't kill yourself, back off, because the whole purpose of it is so you have energy to do other things. Sometimes you have to move your body to release energy so that you feel good. That's why people wake up in the morning and they do push-ups and squats and take cold showers. They're releasing energy so that their body is in a better state to do things. But what you don't want to do is stick to a training schedule that you don't want to stick to, that's taking your energy away. You want to release energy, so you want to do a little bit of activity, but just have fun, do what you want, and then just back off,
rather than kind of ramming your head against a wall with a program that's
exactly
overreaching and trying to do all the other stuff and juggling your life alongside it. And
exactly.
I think really that's such a valuable point to in both planning the whole year and making sure that any kind of major life demands, family, career, spiritual demands, whatever it is, are kind of planned out along with your training cycle. And I think to treat your training as if you're operating in a vacuum and that your body is just a separate, disconnected thing doesn't always work out.
I mean, yeah, dude, I can tell you've definitely thought about this some. The way you're wording this is brilliant. It's good. I'm loving talking to you about this. This is just an interest of mine. I'm glad you wanted to talk about the no season thing. Just as a conspiracy theory type thing. You guys want to hear something real quick?
Let's do it.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll get the tinfoil
think
hat
about
off.
Okay. I'm not going to name names, but I mean, there's guys in the fitness industry who are like, there's no such thing as overtraining. There's no such thing as overtraining. You hear that stuff. All right. They're like, no, because they're trying to tell people like, hey, you got to work out this shit every day and you got to do is, all these reps, and there's no such thing as overtraining. And they're just trying to, what that's doing. And I don't even know if they're smart enough to know what they're doing, but what they're doing is these kids will go in and they'll start being like, yeah, I'm going to train like this every day. And they just destroy themselves. And what happens is they end up in that everyday state of having this brain fog, of being tired, of not being able to take care of their life. And things start to kind of fall apart as they become addicted to this sort of weird overtraining training thing, this dick waving contest. Oh, I train 3 hours today, arms or some shit. And then they're so tired that they can't do anything but sit there and watch these YouTube videos of these guys. So it's like a self-perpetuating cycle. These guys are getting views on their videos from people that they're kind of ruining their lives in a way, because now all they have the energy to do instead of building their lives back up is just to sit there and watch videos.
Daily maxing and squat till you puke and no pain, no gain, and all this kind of sort of beast mode mentality.
It's interesting when you look at any professional sport, or like any time where strength training is used as a means to an end rather than the means in itself. There's always time away. Like there's always an off season in any professional athlete's life, but in just the strength training world, it's like at most a deload week and nothing else.
You're kind of seen as a pussy if you take time off.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really weird, isn't it? I mean, look at professional athletes, like football players and stuff. They don't want to train. They want to they want to go to an island and hang out with their family for a bit. And then, and a lot of them, they'll spend a lot of their off season doing that and stuff. And then they'll come back and it's like they get ready when they want to get ready. They get the job done when it's time to get the job done. And a lot of people in fitness don't understand that. It's like, look, if you want to be shredded like this and look like a magazine cover, then you got to have a reason to do it. It's like, are you entering a competition? Are you going to a photo shoot? Or just to look like that all year long is a retarded goal, because you feel like crap when you look like that. It's such a transient state. And what are you going to do with it when you have it? You can't just walk around like that all day long. It's not going to do you any good. Get in, get the job done at the right time, then get back out and just, relax,
It's an interesting comparison between a football player and someone who just lifts weights, because the football player knows exactly why they're training. And it's not like their approach is damaging their performance, like they're still improving, but when it's time to rest, they really take advantage of resting and then get back to it when they need to, versus someone who's training for the sake of it, and it's almost like an addiction to training, an addiction to what training gives them as something to live for, I suppose. So it's really interesting. Like, you very, very rarely hear of anybody talk about deliberately planning time in your year to not lift.
I think the biggest relief as well is when you take an off season, and even if you're just kind of dabbling, that you don't lose your gains. That it takes so long to build it up, and it equally takes a long time to detrain. And I think the common fear is that you'll just waste away instantly, or that you'll de-skill. And to know that you can actually focus on other stuff and still keep things afloat is pretty liberating, and breaks some of that obsessive neurosis that lifters often get.
Yeah, I mean, it is an art, though. I have to say that deloading and taking time off, there's a lot of nuances to it that you have to recognize, and you only get those nuances if you continually try the process of taking time off and cycling time off and time on, of working and backing off. And one of the things I always tell people is you're going to feel like crap the first few days back, and then all of a sudden you're going to realize you're just fine. And that's usually what happens when I tell people when I'm doing programming and stuff. I'm like, okay, look, you're like 3 weeks here, you're increasing the volume here, intensity here, you're switching these exercises here, and then this week you're not going to do anything. Now, the first week back, you're going to feel like crap, and you're going to get mad at me, and you're going to tell me that you're going to start blaming me for all your gains, for taking this 5 to 8 day period off, and you're going to sit there and you're going to cry and you're going to be upset. But then all of a sudden you're going to have the best workout you've had all year. You have to go through a few crappy workouts when you get back. And, I warn people about that before they take time off, because a lot of them will take time off. They'll come back and they'll have those few crappy sessions, and then they'll think, oh shit, I should have taken time off at all. That was a bad mistake. I'll never do that again. Well, then they don't, and then they have a really freaking good workout. They start seeing good results again, and they don't put two and two together. Instead, they just think, oh, I started training again. That's why I got better. No, it's because you took time off.
Yeah, I see. They can't get the causation from it. And there's some nice kind of underlying physiology of that as well, where taking, I think, 12 days off can reset some of the anabolic signaling mechanisms, and restore your sensitivity to training again, which is pretty good. So, Juji, you said that you plan your year and also your life around doing what you love. And I know that you used to work in an office job, I think up until quite recently. Can you tell us a bit about your choice of job and your experience with it?
My previous job or my job now?
Your previous job, yeah. So you quit. Was it a couple of months ago? I don't know. I might have got the timeline wrong here. Yeah,
that's correct. Yeah. Let's see. So what happened was, just like anyone else who's in high school, I went to college. After a lot of people just go to college. I just went to college, and I'm 18 years old, U.S., going to college, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. All I knew is I wanted to do something that related to fitness and diet and stuff, because that's my passion. That's what I was doing anyway. So I was just like, the closest thing to anything related to that is biology. So I'm just going to get a biology degree right now. That's the plan, and I'll fine tune it as I get closer to it. Well, I got closer to graduating, 22, 23 years old. And I had already taken all these hard science courses. I was just like, well, I just got a traditional biochemistry type degree. It's just like, it doesn't really have anything to do with fitness. I got this far. I just got that degree. Well, I just got a job working with lab stuff. It was the lab automation equipment. So it's kind of like if you're into fitness, you're working for the companies that make the equipment. So instead of doing the lab work, being the trainers and stuff, you were the guy that was actually making the equipment. So that's sort of what I was in the biology field. I was one of the equipment manufacturer type guys. And I just worked that job for about 6 years, 6 or 7 years almost. And then, all the while, I'm always doing my fitness thing, working out, tricking, building websites and, posting videos and stuff. That was my, I liked the job I had because it afforded me enough time to continue working on all that other stuff. If I had a job that I wasn't happy with, that was stealing all my time, I would have quit. I've always been that guy. That's always been who I am. My first job was a gym job. I worked at the juice bar at my old gym. We had like a juice bar. I was like 15 years old, 16 years old. I love that job, man. I just sat there. I had free gym membership. I got free protein shakes. I got to do my homework all day long. And, when I was before or after I was done with my work shift, I got to work out. And I got a key to the gym like a few years later, so I can go in there on Sundays, because that gym used to close in on Sundays, and work out by myself in the whole gym. It was awesome, dude. I mean, a job isn't just about money. It's about the perks too. It's about, the people you work with, it was awesome. And so every job I've gotten after that wasn't me, I would just quit, and I'd just find an easy job, or I'd find a job that just felt right. And the lab job I had, I liked it because it just afforded me a lot of free time. It was pretty relaxed and laid back, and I'd take 2 or 3 hour lunch breaks to train and come back. I mean, how many people can fucking do that?
Yeah, exactly. I think it's an unusual idea to strategically choose your job so that you can spend more time doing what you love, rather than being in something that completely drains you physically. And Johnny and myself have both worked in the financial sector, and it does absolutely wreck you. And you get out of work, and the last thing you want to do is train, because you've been hunched over a desk and the hours are always way longer than you're contracted for. We saw the way it was going and thought, this is actually, Jujimufu's making some sense here.
So did you pick the...
I hate to cut you off real quick, but
go ahead.
Just a quick little thing here. It's kind of funny. That's always been me. I always chose the easy job so that I had time to train. And the thing was that it was I sort of realized after doing this for years that I had friends and family who made 2 to 3 times as much money as I did in their jobs. And here was the clue I got that I was on the right path. All of them envied me. They all wanted my job. I made a third of what they made, but they wanted my job because they just saw how good a mood I was, how stress-free I was. I was just like, God, I want your job, man. It's like, yeah, you make 3 times as much money as I do. You want my job? It's like, yeah. It's like, well, I guess I'm doing the right thing then.
Probably because I guess you're reflecting their insanity by the fact that they're doing supposedly they're in the, what was it called, the rat wheel, earning much more money, and supposedly doing what they've been told they should do, and actually they're miserable, and they're seeing you earning a third of that and actually enjoying their life, which is the whole purpose of working a job, to get a salary so that you can enjoy your life.
Yeah.
So we both, I think the reason that Yusuf's asking this question is, I think probably Yusuf sent me an article that you wrote a few years ago that detailed this, that you had a job that specifically allowed you time to work on your own business and spend time doing the stuff that you love doing. And we both since left jobs that kind of consumed our lives and now do stuff that we want to do. So
congratulations.
Thanks. Cheers. It's quite close to our heart. So I'm interested to know, like, was this your plan the whole time? Like, were you always going to go and do your own thing full time, or has it just organically grown to be that way?
It was kind of 50-50. So sometimes I'd be like, look, I'm comfortable working this job because I can still do the things I want to do with fitness. But at the same time, it's sort of like, this isn't really what I want to do. And if I ever want to make a living doing the thing that I would be doing anyway, because honestly, if you left me to my own devices, I wouldn't be doing that lab work type shit I was doing. That just, it was easy, but if I had free time, that's not what I'm doing in my free time. Now, fitness and stuff, making videos and talking to you guys, that's stuff I want to do in my free time. I mean, I'm going to do that whether I get paid or not. So I wanted to eventually get to a point where it's like, if it wasn't just like, hey, I'm okay, and be comfortable, it'd be like, I want to make money doing something I'd be doing anyway. Am I going to be doing this anyway? So the job gave me enough freedom to build that on the side and then eventually leave that other job so that I could. And that's what happened a couple months ago is it picked up, I built this on the side for years, my websites, my social media presence, my body, my philosophies and stuff. And I had all the time to do that because the job was easy. And then I started making money doing this, and it became so involving that the only choice I had was to leave my old job. I was like, well, it just sort of superseded it.
That's fantastic. So you're living the dream right now and doing what you love.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So Jujimufu, we have a couple of reader questions. I think our readers were pretty excited that you were coming on the podcast. First one is from there's a couple of people that are following your deadlift routine, which is primarily avoiding grinding out reps and combines the idea of accumulating some volume while still training explosiveness. Can you describe the routine briefly and also your general training approach for the compound lifts?
Sure. Okay, so this deadlifting routine was something I started doing instinctively, 2011 or so. And all of a sudden, I just had realized that I was training my deadlift in a way that was really kind of different. I was just like, this works. And I guess maybe I can, share this online. So I eventually put an article out on it. It's my deadlifting routine. It's just the thing I was doing. And what it is I train a deadlift in a very certain way. First of all, I use a double overhand grip. So the thing you need to know before starting this routine is you have to recognize there's a difference between building strength and testing strength. So a lot of people you see always maxing out and sub-maxing out and putting as much weight. They're not building strength doing that all the time, unless they're like Dan Green and they know exactly what the fuck they're doing. Most people who are just slapping as much weight on the bar all the time don't know what the fuck they're doing. And they're not building strength. They're just either wrecking their body or they're just wasting their time. So I realized that I could build my strength not by going up in weight all the time, but staying in a certain range where that's conducive. So I found that if I train the deadlift with the double overhand grip, which is taking the mixed grip out of the equation, giving that bicep a rest on the one side, and it's really training my grip. So first of all, I'm doing a double overhand grip, no hook. I'm picking a weight that's 70% of my everyday max, whenever you make a program, you never pick your percentages of what the weight you're lifting for your sets based on your all-time best. You pick it on your everyday max, just like a weight that you could probably max out on sometime in the next few days. Okay. So I would pick that weight, 70% of that max, and I would hold the weight that way, and I would work on the concentric portion of the lift, because I found that the decentric portion didn't really build up my deadlift very much. Now, eccentric movements can build mass, but in this instance, I was finding that not only did just kind of dropping the weight at the top and falling with it, it was building my lift up, but at the same time, I could deadlift more and work on the explosivity of it. I could come back the next few days and do it again. So I was able to deadlift 3 or 4 days a week if I wasn't, trying to not drop the weight on the ground, if I was trying to control it. It's a little different. So, there's a lot of details to it, and I'm pretty sure you guys can put a link to it in the show notes.
Yeah, absolutely. So the main thing is kind of you're able to accumulate more volume by avoiding grinding and by trying to minimize the eccentric portion of the lift as much as you can.
Exactly. Yeah. So you're not grinding, you're minimizing the eccentric portion of the lift. And if you do a double overhand grip instead of the mix, it does cap out the weight you can do. So it even reduces it a little bit more. So you're training your strength. You're training the lift. It's for quality. The whole purpose of the program is to train the lift to make you better at that weight. See, so most people think they're going to get better at a lift just by increasing the weight. Well, you can get better at a certain weight of a lift, and you can't just keep repping out a weight that you can't always do, but you pick the right weight and you can get better at that weight. It's the whole thing with tricking, acrobatic culture is, okay, if I write down on paper I did 10 540 kicks or 10 backflips, well, what the hell did they look like? You know what I mean? I could film myself and I could see myself getting better at these tricks, at these flips, but people don't do that for weightlifting. So the program in part was, hey, if I actually film myself doing this, is my lift actually looking cleaner, meaner, more explosive, stronger, just more raw? Just does it look better? So part of it is just like, you got to make the lift better. So do it at this weight in this way and work on doing it better. Practice the lift, practice it. It's just practice. I love that word, dude. Practice. It's like get better at it as you do it, instead of just like, it's not some magic shit you write on paper and then one day you wake up and you're at a powerlifting meet achieving your goal. It's like, fucking practice it. Get better at it.
Developing strength is a skill, I suppose. And it's got a kind of aesthetic component to it as well, I guess, when you're aiming for a beautiful lift rather than a kind of disgusting hunchback, sort of grindy, hitched deadlift. So do you approach your other compound lifts in the same way?
The deadlifting routine works for the deadlift. Now, there's a lot of nuances in it that, double overhand grip doesn't really matter with squats. There's other things there. But, similarly, I mean, yeah, a very similar pattern to those other lifts would be ideal. It's a very all-encompassing type of training where it's just like, what I mean is I don't think I could train all my lifts in that way. So, but if I did, it would definitely work. You know what I mean?
So what about assistance movements as well? Because I know that you'd obviously need to take a different approach for the more hypertrophy focused stuff.
Assistance movements for the lifts.
Yeah, so when you're doing your isolation stuff or your your assistance movements, how would you approach them?
I would do them in a way where, well, it depends on my goal. I mean, let's just say that my goal is a bigger deadlift. Okay. Now, most of the time these days, I'm doing assistance lifts for my tricks. So that's usually that is what I'm doing now. It's what I usually use them for. But if I was going to use assistance movements for the power lifts, honestly, I would be a little bit more relaxed about it. A lot of people are, you identify your weakness in the lift, first of all. It's like, okay, if most people are weak off the floor, not in the lockout, and a lot of people are doing exercises that are going to improve their lockout. Fucking why are you doing that? It's like rack pulls with plates to the end isn't going to help your goddamn deadlift. Sorry, can I cuss on this podcast?
Yeah, go for it.
It's way too fucking late. So they load up all this fucking shit on the bar, and they're trying to improve it's like, you don't have a problem at the top of the lift. Your problem is you can't break it off the floor past a certain weight. So why don't you pick assistance exercises that help you break it off the floor? The best assistance exercise for breaking a deadlift off the floor is to stop doing touch and go deadlifts and just do stop and go deadlifts. That's not an assistance exercise. That's just a different way of doing it. It's like if you're doing the first rep is all that matters if you're breaking it off the floor. So first of all, change the way you deadlift by doing stop and go. Now, if you want to pick exercises that accentuate that, then you just work backwards. It's like I could stick plates underneath the bar. So, I'm lower to the ground. I can do a snatch grip, which is going to bring me lower to the ground and really accentuate that. And then, programming for that, in my opinion, look, you can go look up other guys' programs and stuff on how to do this exact number of reps and sets. But a lot of it is just like, just do some of it. Just do some of it. Just add some of it in for fun and just, work hard on it and have fun. And then just a little bit, it's kind of like adding spice to a recipe. It's just like, don't have to, I don't know. Sorry.
That is pretty intuitive that you're picking the sort of the weak part of a movement and focusing on that rather than just doing the standard, like, oh, I want to improve my deadlift, so I'm going to do rack pulls, ignoring the fact that I'm weak off the floor and not in lockout, for example. So do you not do typical bodybuilding assistance work as well, the kind of isolations or bringing up weak body parts?
Oh, no, absolutely. I do that for bodybuilding work. Bodybuilding methodology is different from strength training methodology. I do a lot of isolation movements if I'm trying to grow a muscle. I've noticed that, I have to do it for my arms. It's the only way I ever got my arms to grow was to start doing curls, tricep push downs, higher volume, training for a pump, not looking at the weight so much, but training for the mind muscle connection and how I look and feel, So, that's not assistance work so much as I'd categorize it as that's bodybuilding methodology training. And that's the type of training I'm using to grow,
It sounds like across the board, your focus is more on lighter load, higher volume, especially as you mentioned with the deadlift routine. Like if you're doing like 70% of an everyday max, you're probably closer to 65 or 60%. Do you find, is the way that you're progressing with something like that, and also you mentioned with training for the pump, like are you just trying to progress in terms of doing more volume over time rather than consistently increasing the weight every week?
Oh, no. For the deadlifting routine, what happens is if you're following the routine, you do it, and then you test your max again after a small deload. And then if it goes up, great. Then you change the percentages, and now you're lifting with a different weight than you did for the past few weeks. If it doesn't, then what I recommend people do is instead of going, oh, the program sucks, it doesn't work, look at your fucking life. Like, are you sleeping enough? Are you eating enough? Are you doing everything you can to recover and train? It kind of goes back to the no season thing again. It's like, is your life in order? Is everything really in a conducive state for you to actually adapt to this and everything else that involves training? Is it this lift, or is it your body adapting to training as a whole? So, a lot of times people look at something and be like, this isn't working. It's like, no, that's working. Everything else in your life isn't working. And, that's kind of, it's like almost anything works. That's the fun thing about training, though. Honestly, almost anything works as everything else is working, in my opinion.
It's the same as, I suppose, with what you're saying about someone doing rack pulls to improve their deadlift. They're kind of like misdiagnosing the problem when, you know, if you're not sleeping enough, not eating enough, but you think the reason that you're not progressing is because your program's wrong. There's kind of
right. So yeah, I was going to mention that, and then we started talking about something else. It's like you might go, oh, I need to diagnose my deadlift. It's not improving, so I'm going to, hey, I'm weak off the floor, so I'm going to start doing more lifts from the floor. You know, and they start doing this, and all of a sudden it's just like what you just said, man. It could be you're misdiagnosing the problem. It has nothing to do with the lift or your training. It has everything to do with something that's not allowing your body to recover or adapt, or you haven't given it enough time. You know?
Yeah, something a lot more fundamental. So we had a reader question of, does he find that there is a difference between people that he interacts with online and when meeting them in person? And how does he find it? Oh no, that's a separate question. Well, it's the same guy, but he's done it as like a run-on sentence.
It's like, yeah, it's a paragraph with multiple questions in.
Okay, let's start with the first bit. Do you find there is a difference between meeting people online and then when you meet them in person?
Sometimes, not very often, but it does definitely happen. Especially a long time ago when I ran the community tricks tutorials forum, we would occasionally, this is back before social media. So this is, time period where I noticed most of these instances, we'd all be on these forums together and we'd plan a meetup here in Toronto or some different place at a certain time of year. And we'd all get together and do our thing, trick, and have fun together, work out really hard at this like gathering type of event. And I've noticed some of these people from the internet that were on my forum, like a lot of them are just like they were online. I would say most people are very similar to the way they are online in real life. But other ones, man, it's just like, all right, so this guy is a fucking troll on the internet forums, and he's always being sarcastic and witty and pestering people, and hell, he's going to show up to this thing and trick with us because he's a trickster, but he's a complete asshole online. And then you get there and it's the most underwhelming experience ever, dude. It's like you expect this guy to be funny and sarcastic and kind of smarmy, and he's just quiet. He just doesn't say anything. He's just like, and he laughs at everything everyone else says in like an agreeable way, like, hey, like, I'm okay with you guys. It's just like, what the fuck, dude? It's like,
we have seen that a
if you
couple
get
of times.
behind the internet wall, you're like, if you get behind that wall of the internet, you're a complete dickwad, and we actually like you for it. But it's just like, yeah, the thing I found is that trolls on the internet in real life are completely different. Like they don't, but everyone else that's really good-natured and fun, or have a certain likable personality trait that makes you actually want to meet them, they're exactly like the way they are in real life. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so we've seen that pattern a couple of times as well, where you'll see someone with this sort of big dick swinging personality online, and then you meet them and they're just really meek and agreeable, or they're just pretty shy, and you're thinking, okay, like obviously the confidence people get behind a keyboard is pretty ridiculous.
This isn't a reader question, but it's kind of related to online presence. I know, like, obviously your online presence is very, like, it's not very serious, if I can say that.
Yeah.
Do you find that ever like polarizes people? Like, do you get negative attention for the stuff that you do ever?
Oh no, I don't think so. No, most my fan base is awesome for the most part. I think in general, like if we took the number of followers I have and the number of fans and subscribers and the people that are interested in what I do, and you found someone else in the fitness industry who had a similar quantitative ranking, real quantitative ranking, not just like, honestly, I feel very blessed. I feel like the quality of my fans is greater. They're just so fucking cool, dude. They're really nice and positive, and I don't know. I think I attract. I guess I attract the people I want to attract to me. I guess for the most part.
So my theory is that because you don't take yourself very seriously and you're able to make fun of yourself, like it makes you bulletproof against people that try and take the mick. Because do you use that term, take the mick?
No, we don't actually. Take the mick.
Take the piss.
Surely that's...
take the piss. Yeah, okay. No, I know that one. I never heard of take the mick.
That's a new phrase for you. So yeah,
But yeah, no, it's sort of like beating them to the punch. If I can point out my flaw in the most hilarious way possible, then what can they do to me? I've already beat them.
do you find that, like, as you've been growing your social media presence, that doing like the more ridiculous stuff you do, the more your following increased? Is it that kind of relationship?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, you got to think about what's shareable and relatable to people to a certain extent. I mean, there's certain keywords to think about whenever you're making something that's going to help you grow. Is the relatable is a very big thing. So, I can do something that's crazy, hilarious, and fun that has to do with tricking. And yeah, people are like, wow, this is, I like his attitude, his personality, and everything that's going with this. And it makes me happy to watch this. But then if I did something with deadlifting, which is for some reason everyone has the biggest hard on in the world when it has to do with deadlifting. Just everyone's fucking obsessed with that lift and it's just like so sexually excited. Everyone's just, they love that lift for some reason. It's just, okay, deadlifting is like the thing. It's like the most popular lift. So I could do a skit that's just sort of lukewarm funny with a deadlift and the entire world stops and explodes. It's just like, great, that was easy. Just I could do anything with a deadlift and everyone fucking loves it. Eating popsicles while deadlifting, deadlifting on a roof, deadlifting on fire, deadlifting, just anything that has to do with deadlifting works. So first of all, you look for the things that work, okay? Like deadlifting works, setting things on fire works, screaming works, making fun of yourself works, okay? Everything, it's just entertainment. People just, and then they want to share it. It's like, this is kind of fucking crazy. And we can all relate to it because it has to do with deadlifting and setting things on fire. So then people will share it with their friends. Yeah, and then it goes viral. So that's how it grows. Is these are things that people want to share with other people, and then word gets around, and then it gets reposted on weird websites and on Facebook and stuff, and then boom, you wake up the next morning and you have 20,000 more followers because you bench pressed in your underwear in a band web.
It's very, like, obviously with being online ourselves, we know like how hard it is sometimes to grow a following online, and it's interesting to see how people do it in the fitness industry. Like, everyone has their own way, and I suppose your way is pretty unique to you. So I just wanted to ask you about it because
it's quite difficult to imitate, I suppose, as well.
Because he's just being himself. So because that's the other thing you were saying, much, you don't get much negative attention, like when you attract the right people. Like, I think you seem to be just letting the truest, purest version of yourself exist on social media, and that's going to attract people who are like you, I guess, rather than people who are like what you're trying to be like, which is probably not what you want.
So other people that like to do the vacuum cleaning with weights hanging off the crotch, or
exactly.
So we had another reader ask. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Go ahead. I don't even remember it. But thanks, guys. It makes me feel good that you
well, I think
give me a pat on the back there. A lot of people will say, "Oh, he's just being an attention whore," but no, it's just I'm having fun and being creative and just and at the same time I'm making fun of myself. So well, just I think enjoy it.
Yeah, like, and you've got to play the game, and I think being silly on the front end of the social media is great, and then also, like, obviously the blog is quite well thought through stuff and a lot of evidence-based material on there, so it's a pretty good combination.
And also, like, everybody on social media is being an attention whore.
Well, like, yeah, that's the point of social media, isn't it?
Like, it might as well be entertaining and value adding, and like, if you're deadlifting and setting something on fire, like, I'd far rather watch that than like what somebody had for breakfast. That's how I view it. Anyway, Yusuf has a second question.
Well, this is another reader question, and you kind of answered it a little bit before with CT Fletcher, but how do you find it different training at home compared to the people that you have to go and meet in the movement community they've put in inverted commas?
Well, first of all, I want to ask and answer the question that's behind the question. So the question is, how do I find it different training at home versus with other people, who do what I do, So the thing is that I wonder if this person who's asking this is wondering whether one way is better than the other. And the answer is you need to do both. So if I just trained at home all the time, I wouldn't be what I am. And if I was always just training with other people, whether it's the best in the world or not, there's sort of an adaptive response even to that. You can watch, if you have an eye for it and you pay attention long enough, you can watch certain fitness celebrities train with other fitness celebrities so long that it actually gets boring after a while, and you notice that nothing is happening. And you can kind of see in a way where it's like, I've experienced it myself, and it's like I can see how you can become sort of immune to this really nice experience of being able to train with other people who are in the best in the world. You get used to it. So you get used to anything. So you have to do both. The difference is, just at what you're getting between the two. So at home, I have the privacy of going at my own pace, doing boring shit that necessarily isn't going to be posted online if I have to do it, like ankle exercises or certain stretches that are just not shareable. It's just not something I'm going to post online because it's just work I have to do to build the body. But if I'm with other people and there's a lot of hype, it's like you skip that shit and you're just going to straight to like the hardest, heaviest, craziest shit in the world, and then if that's all you're doing, you're going to hurt yourself.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You're going to stall.
If you're
you have to have both.
Yeah, if you're doing a set of face pulls, it's not going to go viral. So you've got to.
Well, you never know.
Maybe if you do them on fire or something.
Right. Yeah. So a lot of I'm only going to post stuff I think people actually care about. I don't really look face pulls. Yeah, it's a great exercise. I should probably do more of them. I do a lot of other ones. I need ankle exercises, certain boring knee exercises, some maybe a little bit of voodoo floss here and there with the elbows. That's not shit I'm going to post online, but I have to do it. And, if I'm hanging out with CT Fletcher, I'm not going to be sitting there rolling around on a lacrosse ball. You know what I mean? I'm going to be doing 200 rep sets of arms or something. And it's the same. It's not just for the body either. It's for the mind. You got to take yourself out of your comfort zone. If all you do is train at home and your hometown gym, you're holding yourself back. You got to schedule it every month. Like, I'm going to go fly to this expo and work out with these superstars. I'm going to fly over here and work out with these guys. I'm going to schedule 5 of my friends to come to my house and work out, and we're all going to max out at 10 o'clock at night and eat burgers. So you just got to go out of your way to schedule special training events. But at the same time, that can't be all it's about. You got to put in the boring stuff too, day in and day out. You got to do both.
It seems like there's an emerging theme of riding the wave with the demands of what happens. And exactly as you said, if you're flying over to go visit CT Fletcher and you spend the whole time voodoo flossing, then you've wasted your time.
It'd be funny to see his reaction, though.
I think he'd be quite irate about it.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
I don't think anybody on this planet is going to do that, but, it's just...
What's it like in terms of training with CT Fletcher?
What's it like? It's painful.
Yeah.
It's fucking painful. People ask me, what's the hardest workout you ever did? It was like 45 minutes of arms with CT Fletcher. Like, wait, 45-minute arm workout is the hardest workout you ever did? I was like, yeah, because I distinctly remember not being able to pick up a piece of paper off the floor because I couldn't actually touch my finger to my thumb to close it. That's how fucking gone my grip was.
And then at the end of the workout, it's still your motherfucking set.
Yeah, it was too much, man. It was, but it sort of does change. Those are good workouts to change your barometer, though. For how much is a lot, though. Everyone needs that experience. So it's like, fuck, I just did 200 reps of tricep push down superset with 200 reps of biceps. Now, next time I go work out, that 20 rep set is not going to be as like some ungodly amount. It's just be like, it's a 20 rep set.
That's a good point. I think like a shift in your training environment sort of resets your set point and your expectations for a session, and you can then push yourself a bit further. So on the note of voodoo flossing and lacrosse ball and so on, I've had another question about injury prevention, and from experience as well, I'm quite into gymnastics and tricking, and have always found that as I get heavier, I've never been, is it 235 pounds? The heaviest I've been is kind of 200 pounds ish, but even then I find it does start to take toll on my joints. I get more shin splints and sort of niggly issues. How do you avoid, what do you do to prevent injury, especially as you get heavier? And I imagine the stress on your joints is certainly going up.
Well, I can't prevent the stress, pain, small little twinges and aches in here and there. I can't prevent that stuff. It's just going to happen. Now, in terms of like what I'm talking about is like in terms of real injuries. Like I sprained my ankle. I tore my ACL. I slipped a disc. I don't injure myself anymore. I haven't injured myself in years. Typically, you're going to get warning signs before things like that happen. And with enough experience, you sort of understand the proper progression. You sort of understand where your body is. If it's starting to feel a certain way, there's all sorts of warning signs, and you just got to recognize them. And so I'm not going to hurt myself anymore. I mean, it's really just about understanding how much is too much, when not to push it, and just a certain allowance of corrective exercises you just have to maintain on a daily basis. You have to move every day. You have to, you have to understand that this exercise is good for you, like a warrior lunge, Cossack stretch, basic squat, things like that. You just got to keep up with them and keep your body in a certain state, but you got to listen to it. It's becoming passe these days to no one wants to hear listen to your body anymore, but you got to listen to it though. It's not like the gold standard. Sometimes you listen to it and you might go, okay, but it's not important, but you still have to listen to it. Just because it doesn't mean you have to do what it's telling you, but you still have to really pay attention. And I could tell you, as strange as it sounds, I made a decision a few years ago not to injure myself anymore, and I haven't. It's just because I made the decision not to. I'm just seriously, let me ask you guys a question. Every injury you've had, all right, think about this for a second. Every injury bad one, I really fucked up. Did you have warning signs before it? Think about it.
90% of them, yeah.
I think the problem is you rationalize it, don't you, at the time, and think that you can push through whatever it is, or that
I think, my back's a bit twingy, but I'll just finish the set,
do it
or
anyway.
I'll just
It's maintaining that objectivity, I suppose, when it's you managing yourself and not trying to let biased thoughts creep in and take you a direction that's ultimately going to end up with you not being able to train or injuring yourself. But that's impressive that you just decided one day, nope, I've had enough.
So basically, you're saying stay on top of the warning signs and catch them early on, and just don't be a dick with training.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, now I'm interested. You said 90%. I want you guys to answer, when were the times that you hurt yourself that you had no warning signs?
So the one that had no warning for me was just doing gymnastics. It was just by I don't know whether there was a structural predisposition to it or what, but it was doing a B kick, not even a fancy move.
What's a B kick for everybody listening?
It's you're basically prancing around. It's not even a
prancing round.
You're hopping from one foot to another essentially, but I just managed to wreck my back from that, and I've had years of neuropathic pain since then.
Wow.
But I think that's probably the exception to the rule. Everything since then, it's usually been deadlifting, and there has been a warning sign which I've ignored. So yeah, I think you're right.
But that's not to say that you haven't hurt yourself or gotten a twinge or a minor ache and pain. But but in terms of major injuries, you fucked up, and now you're going to have to be out for 3 or 4 months. You would agree that for the most part, 90% of the time you had warning signs, right?
Yeah, I think the warning sign would either be a local thing, or it's a systemic one about, improper programming, or that you're not recovering from your training, or any of the other things that you mentioned earlier. You're not sleeping enough, or there's other stresses going on in your life, and you're trying to dig too deep into your recovery capacity.
I think for me, it's always set number 2. There's a bit of a niggle, and I think I've only got 1 set left. I'll do it anyway. Do it, and then before I know it, that's it. My knee really hurts, or I tear my hamstring, or some. I think even if there's a slight psychological factor of that maybe doesn't feel 100%, I think you guard it subconsciously, or you move a little bit differently. And when you're doing that with load on your back or load in your hands, that's when something tends to go, at least in my experience. So I think you're definitely right. There's always a warning sign. We just oftentimes people choose to not listen because it means giving up, not training for the rest of the day, or modifying your program.
I like how you just said there's a psychological, even if there's a psychological component only to it as well. I agree 100%. I like that you said that. It's because, I want people to also think about here for a second. When was the last time you PR'd on a lift and you had doubt the entire time moving up to your max weight? Usually when you're going to PR on a lift, it's almost like it when you start warming up. You're like, whoa, I'm going to PR today. Just about every fucking PR I've ever pulled was on a day where I started with just the bar and 2 plates on each side. I was like, oh my God, I'm so strong. I'm going to PR today. You just know it. But on those days where you're just like, I feel really like I don't feel it. I'm a little concerned. I don't know if I can do it. It usually doesn't happen. And a lot of times people will go through so many workouts where they feel that doubt, where they don't feel that, just like they don't get that boost, where it's just like they just said, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just going to go for it. And that's when they hurt themselves. It's just like you have to be patient 8 times until that 9th time sometimes to allow yourself to push it to that point. But a lot of people after a while are just like, no, I can't take this anymore. I'm just being a wuss. You're not being a wuss. You're just listening to the warning sign there. It's just like, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. If it's not, it's probably not. So just why isn't it? You got to look at why isn't it? Why are these 8 times feeling this way? It's not you being a wuss. It's something else going on. You got to diagnose. So,
and
I don't know.
I think it's part of that no pain, no gain beast mode dogmatism online that causes people to ignore those signs as well. So apart from that, watching out for the warning signs, do you keep on top of like soft tissue work alongside your stretching?
Not too much. I find for the most part, the most therapeutic thing you can do is full range of motion movements. I mean, a lot of times the soft tissue work is just to put you back in a state where you can actually execute the pattern correctly again, because there's something holding you back. But if the patterns themselves are clean in terms of the movement, then those are the most therapeutic things you can do. And so in terms of soft tissue work, I mean, the story is probably going to change as I get older, but I'm 31, going on 32 pretty soon. And I do almost none of that stuff, to be honest. I mean, I do like to roll the bottoms of my feet and, a little bit of calf work here and there, but I should probably do a little bit more in my wrist, but I honestly think people overdo that shit. I mean, to a certain extent, that's a training stress too. And the more you do of that, the more it's going to hold back your recovery capacity, because your body has to recover to you jabbing it with a ball and a stick all the time. So,
yeah, and there are definitely some people that will sit in foam roll for 45 minutes before they and we spoke to someone a couple of weeks ago who's just saying that the neural potentiation that you get from foam rolling only lasts 5 to 15 minutes. So really, if you're foam rolling 45 minutes, you've wasted your time unless you enjoy doing it as a hobby. So,
I don't know.
Which if you do, we're not going to judge, like everyone's welcome.
But nobody does. It's painful.
I don't know. That was a good one. Yeah, it's a hobby of mine. It's my favorite thing.
Well, you said like you're 31 now, and you wrote somewhere that a few years ago you wouldn't have spent as much time warming up, and now I think both from age and being bigger, that you've got to spend more time doing a dedicated warm up, especially for tricking. I've certainly found that myself as well. Do you now sort of cut out some time to do your warm up for any session?
No, not at all. I mean, every time I warm up as long as I need. That's basically it. Like some days, for example, some lifts are so simple and so easy, and I'm so well rested that the warm up is it's really not even really there. I mean, for example, like if I'm feeling good for bench pressing and I haven't done it in a while, my muscles are recovered. I mean, I'll jump in. I'll be like, okay, another plate. Okay. Another plate. Okay. Another plate. Okay. All right. I'm almost there. All right. Maybe I'll just take a little extra rest. Okay. I'm good. It doesn't take as long, but that's because my body's telling me it's okay. It feels great. Other times it's just like, for example, tricking, it takes me forever to warm up for, man. God, it takes me so long to warm up for that. Now, sometimes if I'm feeling really good, I'm throwing tricks within 15, 20 minutes, but usually it's about 30 to 35 minutes before I'm actually like starting to throw things. I just take as long as it needs. And if it doesn't work, then, using the time it takes to warm up is sort of a gauge on how far I should push the workout. If it's taking me forever to warm up, I probably shouldn't be expecting to throw top end moves for that day. I should probably just work on volume of some simpler stuff. But if I'm like jumping right into it, if my body's going right into it, then I'll be able to be like, just go with the flow, man.
So that's another example of listening to your body, as you were saying, which is like, again, especially like I compete in powerlifting, and the powerlifting community is huge on like having a set warm up that you do every time. And I definitely experienced session to session, like some days you come in and you're just like, this is going to take me 20, 30 minutes till I can squat to parallel. Maybe I should like rein my training in today. And then you have some days where you could do like five minutes of dynamic movement and you're ready to train. And I think noticing the differences, as you said, like using the warm up as almost a like, how am I feeling today? How am I doing today? And then adjusting your workout as appropriate is a great chance to like formalize that listening to your body idea.
It's also a great way to get yourself to work out when you don't want to initially. The trainer, Eric Cressy, he used to write a lot on T Nation, and now he's transitioned to mainly working with baseball players. But he wrote one time that what you should do is, if you don't feel like working out, at least warm up. And if you want to stop after that, then you're okay. You know, but you can't really judge whether you should train that day until after you warm up. Yeah. It's sort of like, because there's a lot of inertia on the couch and in the computer chair, man. When you wake up in the morning and you're doing like intellectual type work where you're just on your butt, you can build up some bad inertia, you know, and the only way to break out of it is to warm up. And until you do that, you can't really judge whether you're in a state to work out for the day, for a good workout. I've had some of my best workouts after I've warmed up. It's just like, I felt like crap before I did. I'd get into it and I'd be like, oh man, I feel awesome, you know?
I just wrote a post yesterday about that exact thing, that like the bare minimum you can do to ensure like progression and success is just have like days in the week that you train, and just on those days go to the gym and do your warm up, do something. And you can never predict the days where, as you say, like you'll go in and today's a fantastic session even though you felt terrible all day, and then the days where you think it's going to be fantastic and nothing works. So just the least you can do for yourself is warm up, as you say. So we wanted to ask you, like, again, I think in fitness, and especially people who are in fitness and have a following, they tend to specialize in something. So like there's the physique competitor guys, bodybuilders, powerlifters, the movement culture or movement community. But you seem to be like almost like a jack of all trades, in that you take lifting pretty seriously, you seem to be taking your bodybuilding pretty seriously, and tricking and flexibility as well. What inspired you to diversify rather than specialize?
It sort of happened. It wasn't a decision. The thing is that most people, when they go through their training career, if they made any big transitions, they leave the old thing behind. That's what most people end up doing. So most people in my situation probably would have went from martial arts to tricking to weightlifting to bodybuilding, and they might be weightlifting and bodybuilding near the end, but they probably gave up the kid stuff long ago, like flips and stuff. Tricks are for kids, you know, it's a cereal. But me, I was like, no, I like this. I still like this. I want to keep doing it. Oh, I like this too. Oh, you know, and I like it all, man. I love it. And I just ended up being a guy that was pretty proficient in things that really didn't go well together. And honestly, it served me really well, because people can look at different ways to really succeed at certain things. And you can either, one, be the best at one thing, you know, which is really hard, because that means, you know, it's like, what, you're going to write, you know, you're going to be like number one bodybuilder. You're going to be like, are you going to write the best book ever, you know, or you can be like, you know, in the top percentages of a certain number of things. And that's sort of what I did. It's like, I'm not the best, you know, power lifter by any means. I'm not the best trickster by any means. I'm not the best guy for flexibility, you know, but if you take a guy who can do the tricks I can do, he's not going to look like me. If you take a guy that can lift like me, he's not going to do the tricks I can do. So it's sort of like, I got you somewhere around here. You know what I mean?
I think that's...
I got you somewhere around here, man. And it's the mix. It makes it rare and it's unique, man. It's just different.
I think what I quite like about it is how like there'll be people who've trained their whole life to get to your level of strength, but like won't look like you. And even if they do look like you, then they won't be as mobile as you. And even if they are, they won't be able to trick like you. And so you're like covering all bases, as it were, which I think is a cool way to develop yourself as an all-round like athlete or lifter as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of fun, and there's a great synergy as well from what comes from, you know, the sum of the parts come out to some more exciting overlaps. And I suppose you get that with ideas as well, when people say you should always be reading 3 or 4 books at a time, so that the ideas can kind of have sex with each other and you generate new ideas as well. Cool. So speaking of ideas, how can we find out more about you from your blog?
Okay, well, check out my Instagram, of course, if you haven't done that. It's slash Jujimufu, Jujimufu, and you can see some entertaining and quite a range of athletic things there that we've been talking about in this post. You'll see flips and lifts and physique and just crazy shit. And then check out my YouTube at slash Jujimufu as well. And for my website, that's acrobolics.com. That's my branding. And you just go there, and I have my writings and my web shop, and you can buy my ebook on flexibility, all sorts of stuff. So if you just check out those 3 places, I'd be pretty happy.
Jujimufu, it has been a pleasure talking to you. Do you have any closing comments for our readers?
Oh, no. But I do want to thank you guys both. I could tell that you guys really read some of the things that I wrote. I always appreciate it when people read the things I write more than just watch the videos I put out, because it's in my opinion, if someone reads something that I've written, it's a much more intensive time investment on their part. It's more patient activity. And I really appreciate the fact that you guys read some of these things I've written before we started this podcast. Oh, I mean, when I write about something, man, I'm passionate about it. It's just, that's things that are very close to my heart. So I very much appreciate that you wanted to discuss some of these things, some of my ideas. It makes me really happy just to talk about these things.
Certainly the more interesting stuff, and I'm glad we got to cover quite a bit of ground as well. Cool. All right, Jujimufu, we will speak to you soon.
Okay. Thank you, guys.